Welcome into the Sportsmemo Betting Podcast, NBA edition with our man, Robbie Vino. He's on a 31-19 run, 62% the last 3 months in the NBA. Welcome into the podcast, Robbie. How you doing?
I am doing great, Drew. How about yourself?
Good. NBA is a sport. I'm not going to pretend to beat the NBA betting markets, but you don't have to pretend. 31-19, 62% over the last 3 months. What are you doing right in the NBA betting markets that you can share with the listeners, Robbie?
I'm winning. I don't know how else to put it, Drew, because the NBA is about as fickle a sport as we have to handicap. Tell you the truth, it can be very, very cyclical year in and year out. I mean, there just aren't many that go consecutive years with really, really strong winning percentages. You know, it comes and it goes, and sometimes they fall in the right place. Now, this year, without changing any technique, I just happen to feel like I'm seeing it better day in and day out right now. So, you know, as bettors and handicappers, half the battle is just that, just seeing it clearly and having things fall the way you see them. So right now going good, and it's an extended period of time. Like you say, it's nearly 3 months, so really not flukish. It's been a really good NBA season so far. Yeah, man, we'll keep it up, and we'll talk the games on tonight's slate. And guys, just so you know, it is January 15th. A lot of people payday, so look out for that. But also it's $2 Tuesday at sportsmemo.com. You can get Teddy's SEC Game of the Week for just $2 on the front page of sportsmemo.com. It's a great day to check it out. Also, Robbie Vino has a 5% play on tonight's NBA action. And if you buy Teddy's $2, you can also get a discount code to grab Robbie Vino's 5% play in the NBA. So really, if you're price conscious as far as spending on plays, tonight is the night to visit sportsmemo.com. And we're doing a little bit later podcast here, so get this up hopefully in time to listen for tonight's NBA slate. We got 5:15, 5:16, 7 p.m. Eastern tip. Robbie, Phoenix at Indiana, 219 the total. Pacers laying a lofty number here, double digits at home, seeing mostly 10.5s. Yeah, and they've been a team that's been spotty as far as totals are concerned at home, Drew. Really more or less an under team, tell you the truth. 14-5 under the total so far at home this year, so a little something to look for, considering the fact that Phoenix is on a little bit of an under trend right now. The Pacers, contrary to the home number against the total, have gone over in 8 straight right now, just getting a huge amount of scoring up and down the lineup at this point in time. In a couple of those games, they did it without their starting center, Miles Turner. So it's certainly Indiana shooting the ball well right now. Phoenix not the best defensively, but at this price tag, at this total, I don't know that I could play Indiana up and over the 219 with Phoenix. We see a little bit of money toward the under here, 220 down to 219. No real injuries to talk about here. I will say this: there's been a lot of chatter within the last 24 hours about the potential trade of Dennis Smith Jr. from the Dallas Mavericks, and Phoenix, according to a lot of reports, and we know that they're all just hearsay at this point in time, but Phoenix is a team that's mentioned quite a bit in these reports. Dallas saying that they'll be they look to have Dennis Smith traded within 48 hours. Could it take a couple players off the Phoenix roster before tonight's game? We don't know, but it's a possibility. I think it's probably a game you'd like to leave alone here. Indiana, like I say, on a good overroll, but the home numbers just don't support that, so I'd probably let that game go.
Robbie, we got 5:13, 5:14 up next. Minnesota at Philadelphia. High total here, 232.5. It looks like the 76ers laying 6.5 at home.
Yeah, big game just from, outside exterior stuff here that's going to go on, Drew. Number one, Jimmy Butler of the Sixers gets to see his old teammates, and number two, his old teammates get to see him. A lot of friction between Jimmy Butler, Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, before Butler was, traded out of town to the Sixers. So I think you'll see a lot of determination on the part of those three men, and probably on the part of both teams here in support of their guys. Philly, a team right now that I don't want to say they're in disarray, but being right in the area, there's an awful lot of talk every single day about the three main cogs of that Philadelphia 76er team not being able to coexist on the floor right now. Not Jimmy Butler complaining about his shot opportunities and where they might come from. Joel Embiid complaining about the lane being clogged against him. Ben Simmons trying to learn how to shoot the basketball. The three guys, they haven't really found a way to get all three rolling on the offensive end. They're a great fast break team, and Minnesota lends itself to fast break play. In fact, since Tom Thibodeau was fired, Minnesota's been once again a very high scoring team. So that's why the total is where it is. To me, it's a bit too high. I don't think it'll be that up and down. I think you'll see some defense played in this game, especially if the game is close in the fourth quarter. It's amazing how the fourth quarter, the last 8-10 minutes or so in close games becomes a graveyard where overs go to die, and that could possibly happen here. A lot of action on the Sixers, up from 4.5 to 6, 6.5 in some spots. That could be in anticipation of people thinking that Butler's going to have a big game here, but I wouldn't count Karl Anthony Towns or Andrew Wiggins out. Anthony Towns especially has been fantastic as of late. Tough matchup here, though, against Joel Embiid. Tough center matchup for both of these guys.
Talking the NBA slate for tonight, Tuesday night. It is $2 Tuesday at sportsmemo.com. You get the top play on the front page for just $2. Robbie Vino also has a 5% NBA play up at sportsmemo.com. $2 Tuesday every Tuesday. And Robbie Vino's really put together a heck of a season this year in the NBA. 31-19, 62% for the last 3 months running. Robbie, we got 517, 518. Oklahoma City at Atlanta, 9.5. OKC laying on the road, 234.5 the total.
Yeah, nice little layoff here for OKC after back-to-back games against the San Antonio Spurs. Of course, we recall the one a few nights ago where it went 154-147 into double overtime, I believe that one was. And then, of course, the bounce back. Remember, you and I talked about this last week, Drew. How often is it that a team will play the same team the very next night? This didn't happen the very next night. It happened 2 nights later, but it was consecutive games played between OKC and San Antonio. Thunder bounces back with a 122-112 win in that one. A total here extremely high based upon Atlanta's penchant for scoring the basketball and, of course, lackadaisical defense. They haven't played defense all season long. They do catch a break here. Well, not necessarily a break, but they get additions here because their last game against Milwaukee, they played without their top starting power forward John Collins. They played without their starting center Dwayne Dedmon, gave up 133 points to the Bucks. That could happen any night to the Hawks, but when you're without your two bigs, it's especially going to happen because they become really small without those guys. Those two guys back in the lineup tonight for Atlanta, so they should be at full strength with the exception of Kent Bazemore, who's been out for a while now. Kind of like Oklahoma City here, Drew. They've done nothing to discourage me from betting them. Total here keeps rising up to 234.5 now, and like I said earlier, I understand Atlanta games have found their way to high totals this year, but just don't know that this one is in a range where I'd like to play it over. Oklahoma City on the road this year, 15-7 to the under. Could be a pretty good way to go here. I would expect Billy Donovan's team to play some defense after those 2 efforts against San Antonio, which really weren't good as far as the defense is concerned.
Robbie, we got 519, 520 up next, 8 p.m. Eastern tip. Miami at Milwaukee, 218 the total. Looks like the Bucks lay a 9 at home to the Heat.
Yeah, huge favorite number, especially when you consider the fact that Miami, just in this matchup, Miami versus Milwaukee, Miami's won the last 4 games straight up. One of them took place this year, and we understand that Milwaukee's a little bit better team than they were last year. Maybe they're a lot better than they were last year, but last year they were a playoff team. This year they're probably an upper-tier Eastern Conference playoff team. It doesn't matter. Miami's been able to defeat them. Forget the points. Win these games straight up 4 in a row. So it's a difficult matchup for Milwaukee, and when you go through the numbers, you realize that it's the Miami defense that has really caused some trouble for the Milwaukee Bucks. Of course, this year they're really predicated upon more three-point shooting and the play of Giannis. But I don't know how you could go against these numbers that Miami has posted against Milwaukee here, Drew. 9 points to me seems like an awful lot for a team that not only has had success against these very same Bucks, but they've had success on the road, point spread wise this year, covering at a 67% clip. 12-6 are the Miami Heat this year on the road. Milwaukee's been a good home team, 15-7, but all things considered here, I would go with the matchup, the style matchup here, which really seems to bother the Bucks. Miami +9 to me looks like a good spot.
We got Golden State at Denver up next. Looks like the Warriors laying 1 on the road, 228 the total, Robbie.
Huge game for Western Conference supremacy at this point in time, Drew. It's the first time that Golden State has really been healthy to face these Denver Nuggets. And I could say the same thing about Denver here, because Denver, it looks as if Gary Harris will play tonight. And if Gary Harris does play, that brings everybody back. Will Barton has come back to the lineup. Paul Millsap has come back to the lineup. The only guy really that they're missing is Isaiah Thomas, who hasn't played all season long. But Denver, one of your deepest teams in the NBA when fully loaded, and that seems to be the way they'll be tonight at home, where they're extremely good, 14-7 against the number at home. But Golden State seems to be clicking on all cylinders offensively right now. They've had a couple of huge outbursts over the last 7 to 10 days, and to listen to Steph Curry talk about it, you get the idea that they are right now getting all cylinders going at once. They're waiting for DeMarcus Cousins to come back. They'll be even stronger when that happens. There might be some acclimation time with him in the lineup. But right now, the shooters, Durant, Thompson, Curry, these guys all in pretty good form. I think Steph had 11 threes the other night. And like I say, listening to that post-game interview out of Steph Curry talking about the offense, just something that was almost like a volcano, bubbling and waiting to overflow. It's starting to overflow now. This should be a really good game. And I don't know that Denver defensively, as good as they are, can stop Golden State. I might look toward the over in that contest. We're staring at about 227, 227.5 in that game. To me, the way Golden State's playing offense right now, this one could get over.
We're talking with Robbie Vino, breaking down every game on the board on the NBA slate for tonight, Tuesday night, which means it's $2 Tuesday at sportsmemo.com. Check it out. Top play, just $2 on the front page. Also, Robbie Vino has his 5% play in the NBA Tuesday blue chip total going tonight. So check that out at sportsmemo.com. Robbie, we got one game left, 5-2-3, 5-2-4, 10:30 Eastern tip. The get back special here, Chicago at the LA Lakers, 215.5 the total. Looks like the Lakers laying 7 at home.
Yeah, boy, the Lakers just waiting for LeBron to get back at this point in time. The record hasn't been good without him. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bulls, Drew, power ratings wise, have begun to climb the ladder a little bit because of the return of some players. Now, you know, Lauri Markkanen's been back for a while now. Chris Dunn's back for a few games now. Zach LaVine. These guys hadn't played together hardly at all this season, and now they're all back together, and they have a few games under their belt. So Chicago and LA kind of going in different directions right now. Makes the point spread look a little bit big to me. But then you have to consider the fact that Chicago has not had any success whatsoever against Western Conference teams this year. They've played 18 times against the Western Conference. They've lost 15 of them now. Granted, once again, a lot of those with a beat-up lineup, and I'm interested to see how they fare tonight with all these guys in the lineup together. Chris Dunn, one of the pieces that is reported in a potential Dennis Smith trade. You could see Chris Dunn swapped for Dennis Smith Jr. Again, it could happen before tonight. Everything I read, it doesn't seem like that particular trade would happen before this game, so I'm going to assume Dunn is in the lineup. And I think +7 looks really large right now. LA's coming off a real lousy effort, and head coach Luke Walton's going to want them to try and make up for what happened the other night. But I just don't know that at this point, without LeBron, they're capable of laying 7 points. So for me, it would probably be the Bulls or not at all in that game.
Robbie, thanks for the time. Great breakdown on every game on the board in the NBA tonight. It is $2 Tuesday, sportsmemo.com. Check out Robbie Vino's 5% play going tonight in the NBA. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow with some NHL, soccer, maybe some college basketball as well for the Sports Memo podcast. Best of luck with your bets. Talk tomorrow.